you again for joining, and we are going to talk on this day of AI literacy about creating your own AI solutions, right? So the starting point here, probably something you know, that's why you're interested in this session in the first place, but there is a little bit of a misconception among many educators. And that misconception is a confusion between what AI is and the way we present it as a toolbox. It's very understandable because there's an overload, constant flow of new edtech tools that are more and more AI powered. So we tend to confuse what AI is and the different edtech products that have AI enabled that we might have access to, right? So it's understandable that for many teachers, AI might mean Magic School, and then ChatGPT, and then Claude, and then Bridge, and whatever the suite of tools you have access to. At this session, we'll show that's probably not the best way to look at it for a number of different reasons that we'll talk about. A better way to look at what AI is to see it as an energy source. The energy that powers all of those apps. You could equate that energy with, like as a metaphor, with electricity or even gas, right? And so then if we say that, then we have to say, well, what kind of energy is it? And as we know, what AI is, it's a sort of energy that can process information in ways that would otherwise require human levels and types of thinking. So AI is not necessarily there yet that it can process information at a human level, but it can accomplish tasks or some aspects of tasks that would otherwise require human level of intelligence. So whether it's understanding an image, whether it's giving feedback on text, whether it's turning text into speech and speech into text, all those things it can do are a source of energy. And one way to use that energy is to use AI to create tools, right? So that obviously shows that AI is not a toolbox because we can use AI as an energy source to do many different things. And one thing that we can use it for is to create or customize tools. So we'll go first through sort of different levels of creating your own AI solutions. And then we'll look at examples of each, knowing that there's going to be different levels of complexity and also control over the tool. So the first two levels would be when we don't create our own solutions, we just use the ones that exist. So if I'm a teacher who has an interest in AI, I might already have an edtech repertoire of tools that I might use. So I'm familiar with Google AI Studio, I'm familiar with Bridge, I'm familiar with Snorkel. I have all those tools that I can use, right? That would be sort of level one, which is for many is already fairly advanced. Like many teachers are not there, but I already have the whole toolbox that I can use. The next step then would be having some level of technical AI literacy where I know how to use those tools to get the best out of them. So I make them reliable. I get something very close to the output that I really need. And that's really through prompt engineering, right? So that I'm in front of ChatGPT and I know how to craft a prompt to get the exact outcome that I need of high quality. So those two first levels I'm not going to talk about because here I'm just using AI tools as they are, right? I'm not even customizing them. So that's a different topic. So the first step of creating our own AI solutions would be still using prompt engineering, not to write our own user prompt, but to write the system prompt. So if you're not familiar with this, the idea is for chatbots, they have a set of instructions that tell them how to behave. That's called a system prompt. And usually it's written for you by the provider. You as a user just write your user prompt. So please give me a lesson plan or whatever, that's your user prompt. Many tools allow users to also create the system prompt, and then you can really tweak and customize your tool so that it it has certain levels of, or certain types of expertise, or has certain instructions to behave in certain ways. So that requires you have to know how to structure and write that prompt. There are some formats that work better than others, but that's still sort of level one of how you would customize the tool. Or in case you're not familiar with this, I'll show you how to do it with two different tools very easily, but that's still sort of only level one. The next step up would be when you use tools that are designed to help you create other AI tools. That's a great entry point to creating AI solutions because they're oftentimes called no-code solutions. So you don't have to know much about the technical side or even less about coding. The AI is going to do all of that easy work and legwork for you, but it will still allow you to create your own tools. So again, I'll show you a couple of examples of how you can do that very easily. And the last step, let's say, would be creating fairly, knowing that we're not developers, so at our level of educators, creating fairly advanced AI solutions where you're not using a tool to create the tool for you, you're directly creating the tool. That would require that either that you know how to code, or at least that you know how to use AI to write some of the code for you. But you still need to know what questions to ask. You still need to tweak the code. So I'll briefly mention that last solution and show you how you can do it. I won't go too much in depth because that would require sort of a longer course to know even what we call more and more vibe coding. To do it so that you don't waste your time and you have an end product that works would take a little bit longer than the time that we have today, but I will still show you some options for you to do that. So those are the different steps. Then the critical question is, why would we bother? Right? Why not just use the tools that are available? Why create our own tools? And when does it make sense? Right? So obviously you have access to the slides, so you can use your template for yourself. And the idea is, it's probably a good idea for any teacher, actually for any educator, whether you're a teacher, a school leader, staff, whatever it is, to start developing what I like to call an AI mindset. And what that simply means is try and keep AI as a possibility just on your mind, on your horizon, whatever you're doing at work, right? And sort of whatever you're doing at work, try to always have 3 questions that run on the back of your mind. The first question would be, what I'm doing right now as a teacher, as a school leader, as a whatever it might be, whatever I'm doing, is there a way to do that more efficiently with AI? Like, can I do it faster or easier with AI? If I don't think about that, if I don't do it, then I'm not being optimal. I'm spending more time on a task than I should, because if I invest just a little bit of time, I can create an AI tool that will help me be so much more efficient. Right? So that would be the first level, efficiency. Can I, in any way, use AI to do whatever I'm doing right now more efficiently? The second question would be, again, whatever I'm doing right now, is there a way to use AI and create an AI tool, not necessarily to do things faster or even more simply, but to do them better, right? To achieve a higher level of whatever goal I have. So there will be effectiveness, right? Not efficiency, which is the balance between input and output, but the sort of absolute quality of the impact that I'm having. And then the third question, which is where there is the most potential, obviously, is whatever I'm doing, would it make sense to stop doing it and start doing something else instead? That AI now makes possible that wasn't possible before, right? So once you have this AI mindset, that's where you can fill out that first box here with your problem, which would be what process, what task am I trying to do more efficiently or more effectively, or which new task am I trying to do that was not possible before? And I know that's just a point. I don't have the solution yet, but I know I have a sort of a use case for which AI might be useful. So that's my AI mindset. the next step would be, okay, so I know I have a problem. I want to find a way to read through and summarize all of my emails very quickly. I need to find a way to devise detailed but also anonymous behavior plans for students, whatever it might be. How can I use AI to do that? So that's where you would think about the AI capabilities, which means like, what is AI at this particular point in time capable of? Right? So you'll see in the next slide, I have a list, and there's also a playful way to do that. So we'll talk a bit more about those capabilities. So once at this stage, I know what's my use case, right? Or sort of what I'm trying to do. I know some of the pieces of the puzzle, but I know AI can do text to speech. It can also write code. It can also run code. So how do I put it all together to create my tool? It's going to be the next step. And so that's where I have my different solutions, right? And so before I go and create my own tool, I should ask myself, is it just easier and better to use an existing product? Like if ChatGPT can do it, then don't go and create your own tool, just use ChatGPT, right? If you're satisfied with what Magic School does for a particular purpose, then just use Magic School. Right? It obviously makes sense to invest time in creating your own tool only if one of the conditions of the four on the left side is met. So usually, once we go down the list, or once we go from the EdTech tools to prompt engineering to system prompt, etc., as we go down the list, the price is going to go down, right? So the subscriptions to AI tools, they tend to be more expensive than what you can do at a lower level on that scale. The more you create your own tool, the cheaper it is, right? So that's the first consideration. The second one is, as you go down the list, you will have more and more control over what the tool does. It becomes more and more flexible. So if I need a very specific tool that does something very, very unique to my use case, then probably a like mainstream EdTech tool is not going to be useful. I need to design it myself, right? So the price goes down, the flexibility goes up. Usually the quality goes up as well. And if we can invest time in creating our own tools, we can have an outcome that is exactly what we need. So the quality is also improved. The trade-off is, as my price goes down, as the flexibility goes up, as the quality goes up, the complexity goes up as well, right? So using an EdTech tool is usually fairly intuitive. Prompt engineering is just slightly more tricky. The system prompt is slightly more tricky. Creating your own tool through another tool is slightly more tricky. And then doing it yourself, even through vibe coding, is even more tricky. So the trade-off here is it becomes more and more difficult. Not necessarily very complex, but you might need a minute to learn how to do it. So I told you when we try and brainstorm what are going to be the different pieces of the puzzle that I'm trying to put together when I create my tool. One playful way to do it is to use a card game. So you have the link to this once I share the presentation with you. And so you can print it out, and then you have those little, they're very small here, but you can make them bigger, those little cards. You can see them here, and essentially, so that's very small as well, but essentially what it is trying to zoom in a little bit. So each card gives you one thing that AI can do, right? So for instance, I can input text, or I can input a video, or I can input an image. And then there are things that so that's the input that I have. And then the outputs might be something like AI can output text, or it can output a video, or it might, whatever it might be. So you have all those. And then whether on the slide, or basically if you have the video cards, you can try and put them together and see, okay, what flow, what process would do what I need, right? It's a good way also to, just as a sort of thinking exercise, can be very useful, because even if you use a tool to create a tool for you, it's better to know in advance sort of exactly what you need what are the different pieces of the puzzle and in what order they should be. The first reason it helps you, so computational thinking and having the algorithm in mind before you get started. It will make the process faster. Also, if you don't want to spend any money, the tools that allow you to create other tools, you can usually use them for free, but you have a limited number of requests that you can use. And if you don't really know exactly where you're going to exceed that limit. And so you're not going to get an end product that is usable. To be able to create the tool you need in a limited number of exchanges with the agent, you need to know sort of exactly what you need. So you need to have that whole like algorithm and steps in mind. By the way, the card game, I create those particular cards, but the idea doesn't come from me. It's used by many facilitators, including some on the database. So most importantly, how do we do it? What are some of the tools we can use to do those things? So I'm going to share with you, show some of the solutions. The way they are arranged is it's not the most aesthetically pleasing, right? So as I go towards the right, so on my x-axis, I have more and more control over what I'm doing. The price goes down and the quality goes up. But as I go up, so on that y-axis, it's certainly is more and more complex as well. And it's a trade-off where usually, if I want to pay less and have a better output, I will need to learn how to use the tool or invest some bit more time. That being said, even at the very high level, it's not highly complex. It's not highly complex. It's not like you have to be a developer to know how to do it. So briefly, here are some of the examples I want to share with you. The first one is Chip. And if you've never used it, I would suggest you give it a try. So you can access it at app.chip.ai. And all it is really is it's an interface where you can create your own chatbots, right? So it's still at a fairly low level. All you'll need to do is write a prompt. And so it looks very much like you would do on ChatGPT if you were to create your own GPT. The difference is those you can share. First of all, you can create them for free, and you can share them for free with anybody, right? The only flip side there is if you don't have a paid account, you can only use GPT-4o Mini, right? To use the other models, you need to pay for it. But 4o Mini is a fairly good model and can do many great things already. So all you need to do is write your prompt here. And the nice thing with this Chip app is for free, that's in the free plan, you can give it all of those functionalities. So you can make it so that the user can upload a file, your assistant can generate images, it can also read or see images. So if the user is uploading an image, it can read that image and give some sort of an answer, some sort of feedback. It can go and read the text from a URL, and you can also search and browse the web. Right? This is all, you can toggle them on or off, but you can give all those functionalities to your app. So that's a very easy way to create your own tool, either for yourself or that you will share with students or with colleagues, where you create an assistant that will do a particular task that is, whatever you need and is useful. So like if we go briefly over the ones that you have here, you can see I created one here that helped our science teachers interact with the NGSS curriculum, right? Or we have one here that is going to help new hires at our school interact with many of our policies and handbooks, etc. You might have, this is for students, and it helps them learn about the OPDL model to analyze sources. So all those different tools, I can just create them and share them for free. So that's a very low level, but that's a good one to use. The next one I wanted to share with you is Poe, and you might already be familiar with Poe. It allows you to do sort of the same thing where you create your own assistant, but there is a new functionality that has been added fairly recently. It's not like yesterday, it was a few weeks or a month, but it might not be as well known as others. And what that functionality allows you to do is to create your own tools. But it's not only a chatbot, but an actual app. So you have an example here of one that I created. If I was an econ teacher, I could share that app with my students. So what it does is, when you click here, you can do it now, it is going to create a scenario, right? And then it creates graphs, and then the student has to decide or understand which one of those graphs is a correct representation of that scenario. So that's just one example of the many, many, many different apps that I could create for my students. I did not write any of the code for that app, but it was all done by Poe. So the way you do it is you go on Poe.com. If you don't have an account, you create your account. Then on the left-hand side, you can see here you can create. So that's where you create your own tool. And you can decide just to have a basic chatbot, or you have here something called Canvas app. That's the one that you want to click on. And here, if you don't write the code, you would go to generate with a bot, right? And so here, you're simply going to, just like you would with any GenAI tool, just like you would talk to ChatGPT using natural language, you're going to request an app, and it is going to create that app for you, right? So I could say something like, create an app that looks up relevant news based on student interest and writes an article for them to read. It should extract the key vocabulary and ask comprehension questions. And then, just because I want to make sure my students can use this without having to pay, I'm just going to use Video for Omni. And so that's all I would do, really, right? I have those basic instructions, and the model, it uses a model by Anthropic, the 3.7. And so it uses thinking, it makes a plan, it's going to write the code, and then it's going to create the app. If I'm not happy with it, I can go back and say, well, actually change the layout or add this function or whatever it might be. Once I'm happy, I can just publish and give the URL to my kids, and they have access to the app that I created for a specific purpose in this example without having to write a single line of code. As you can see here, usually it might take, you might need to go back and forth a couple of times if it doesn't do exactly what you want. But let's say if the kids want something about soccer, so once I share the app, the students would not see the left-hand side, right? They would only see the right-hand side. So as you can see, it for that article, so the key vocabulary, and ask the questions, right? So I could follow up and say, I want the students to be able to answer the questions and get feedback on the AI, right? So I would ask here for something else, and it would edit in my app. And once I'm happy with it, I can just go ahead and publish. I can do all of that for free, and students can use the app for free up to a limit. And if I use a model that's not too expensive, like GPT-4o Mini, they can use it quite a bit until they reach that limit. So that would be Poe. Again, very easy to use, but it still gives me a good level of control and has a lot of flexibility as to what I can do with the tool. Lovable, I'm also going to show you, it's sort of similar to what we just looked at. The difference is it can create apps that are more complex, that are also visually very pleasing. It's also a design tool. And again, I can just use natural language to create them, and I can share them for free. But again, it's important to have my plan ahead of time, because I can only send so many messages per day unless I pay for Lovable. So I'll show you a couple of examples of what I created with it. Computer is being a little bit slow. Here you are. So for this one, and again, like, keep in mind, I'm not a designer, so I can't design anything. So I had the Lovable create all of that for me, just using natural language, right? So that particular one, we might use, I'll see, to welcome or to introduce our new colleagues to our existing faculty. So I will share the link to that app with our new hires. They will go and create their profile. And once they create their profile, it's going to, so that it's going to load right now. It is going to show where they are from on that world map, and then display their profile. Here, so you can see I did one just as an example. So here, that's my profile, and here, please select them from France, shows where I'm from, right? So that whole thing, again, I did not create. What I did was go to lovable.dev, and you'll see it looks very much like ChatGPT, right? All you do is interact with it. The difference is what it outputs is an app that is plug and play, ready to use, and that is meant to be aesthetically pleasing. So, for instance, when you clicked on the link to register for this workshop, you had this web page saying that it was all created by Lovable. I just asked for a web page that would introduce those two workshops. I gave some info from my bio. Obviously, I gave the image, and I said I need to be able to collect email addresses, and it created that app for me. Right? Again, free to use, free to share, but you need to have a good plan ahead of time, because if not, you're going to either have to pay for it or not be able to complete your project in the few or the limited number of messages that you have per day. So Chip, very good to create sort of those chatbots or custom assistants. Poe, which allows you to do the same thing or to create apps. Lovable, that does the same thing, but also has that element of nice design. And then we enter more complex territory. So Diffie, I will let you explore this on your own time if you're interested, because it's more complex. It's essentially, I mean, I can show what it looks like maybe, but I'm not going to go over the tool itself. Actually, I don't have it loaded, but think of it, it's a canvas, and you can drag and drop different elements. As you can say, I want to start with a module that will allow people to upload a document. Then I need something that will process that document. Then needs to be sent to another agent that is going to search the internet, wherever it might be, and you create that flow, and you use what we call API keys to be able to call the different steps and buttons. Again, it's not that complex to do, but we would need a course of a couple hours to be able to do it together. If you want to learn on your own, you can just click on the link. I'll add the link by the time I share the slides with you. It is free to use, Diffie, free to share. You would have to, depending on the models that you decide to use, you might pay per use. So some models are free to use. For instance, the Google Gemini models. There's a way to use them for free. There are open source models that can be used for free. If you want to use GPT or other models, you have to pay for them. But again, it's much cheaper than if you had to pay for a subscription. Rachel, I will make sure to answer your question just at the end, if it's okay with you. But that's a very important question, so I'll make sure that I answer it. And then, so Claude and Google AI Studio, those are just examples. You could use ChatGPT or other ones. What you can do with them is help them to write some of the code for you for an app. And then you can use something like Hugging Face, or there are other platforms when you can run that code and run your app, right? I'll show you the end product and how you can customize it to really create your own from scratch. Again, it's not very, very complex, but we will need a little bit more time than we have today. We can, if you're interested, let me know, and we can put together an online course, sort of like a 2 or 3 hour workshop at some point to do it together. But I would want to show you what the output can be like, or the outcome can be like, and how you can use them and customize them so they can still be useful in your own context. So one example, so those are all tools that I created. What I do is I use usually Claude, sometimes ChatGPT, sometimes Gemini to help me write some of the code. The difference with Poe or Lovable is we are not yet, that might happen soon-ish, but we're not yet at a point where you can just tell them what you need and it's going to work. You need to know what to ask, and to know what to ask, you need to have some level of technical knowledge. Where you need to say, I need to use that Python library, or make sure to, so you need to have some level of technical knowledge. And also the code is usually not going to work perfectly. And if you just say, well, fix the code, it doesn't work, it's usually going to create more problems than anything. So you also need to know a little bit at least about coding, so you can pinpoint the issues and fix some of the things yourself. So because I don't want to confuse you, again, I'm not going to go on the tech side, but we could create a course and do that together with a little bit more time if you're interested. But so this one I created, and what it does is, I'll show you from the beginning. So it helps you turn existing units into project-based learning units, or at least introduce elements of PBL. So for instance, I'm going to upload, let's say, slides that I used to use for my teaching when I used to teach psychology. So I can say, right, those are some of the elements of project-based learning. So I can say, and that particular unit was not project-based, but it's fairly dry psychology. So I could say, well, that might be too much. It might be overwhelming for me to have all of those elements of PBL because I'm just getting familiar with it. But I do want to give students choice, let's say. And so what it will do is read my PowerPoint, and then it is going to tell me how I might introduce elements of choice. And as you can see here, I can then go and ask to create some of the materials, right? So for instance, if I like this strategy, I can go here and say, create a handout for this. And then it's going to create one for me. The point that I'm trying to make here is there isn't, at least yet, a good tool that creates PBL, or that helps you PBLize your units, even less so that it's going to create the handouts and the materials for you. So I sort of had to create it for myself. What you can do is, once you create your account, so you can create an account, website is called Hugging Face. Hugging Face is it's a great organization, great company where people share AI models and AI, they're called spaces, so AI apps. Once you have your account, you can go to that URL that we'll share with you. And if you go here, you can just ask and clone duplicate the space. What it will do is it will create your own version of that tool, right? So you'll have your own PBLizer, and then you can tweak it. So some other ones that I've created that you will be able to duplicate and customize for your own purposes are this one, for instance. What it does is same thing. I upload my slides or my my teaching materials, and it is going to reverse design or reverse engineer a unit plan, right? So if I only have my slides, but I don't have a unit plan, it is going to read my slides and tell me what unit plan would lead to that take of slides. So it reverse engineers the unit plan. It also tells me or suggests some tweaks that I might make. So that's a great example where that tool is very useful for our teachers, right? It saves them a lot of time when they have to create unit plans. The issue is, I mean, the flip side is, it's so useful because it uses our unit plan template. So obviously I had to create the tool so that it would use our unique template. The flip side is, for you, it might not be overly useful because, well, you have a different template at your school. So what you can do is you duplicate the space that creates your own, right? So you now have your own version. And once you have your own version, what you can do is you go to files here, and that gives you, you can see then the back end of the app. The one that you care about is called app.py. That's where you have all the code. Again, if you're not a coder, don't get afraid, don't get scared. All that you're going to look for is where the prompt is. And here you can see the prompt tells the model what our template is. So all you will need to do to turn that into your own tool for your own school is make sure to here ask to, so if you had your own version, you would say edit, but you click on edit. You would not change any of the code. You would only change that font in green here, and you would rewrite that so it becomes your prompt, right? And that way you can customize it to match whatever you need. So you can do that for the PBL tool here. You can do that for this tool here. It is the reverse unit planner. You can do that for any of the tools that I'll share with you. This one, for instance, is a voice interface where I can use my voice to talk to an AI that is going to talk back. And as you can see, I have different options. So I can decide to talk to an AI that is an expert in restorative practices and supporting student behavior, one that is a UDL expert or a learning support expert, or even I can even say what they should, what their background would be and what their behavior should be. So we'll see if I'm sure it's going to work with my headphones. Hi. How are you? I'm okay, thank you. So I don't know if you were able to hear that, but the point is I can have the same kind of interaction that I would have with a custom assistant, the one that I created with Poe or that I would create with Chip, but this is going to be voice-based. So it can be useful if, we might use it, for instance, in my school when we go over some student's behavior and we're looking at data and as we are analyzing the data and writing down the plans, etc., I might be able to talk to an expert and get their, like as part of the team, their input could be very useful. So again, what you can do is once it's once you clone it, once you duplicate it, you can go here and decide to create more other options. So you're not changing any of the code, but what you can do is change the options and decide that it's not going to be a UDL expert, but it's going to be some other expert, like whatever suits your use case. I was going to find something to show you, but I can't seem to be able to find it just now. It is actually. So at the very top, you would see I have those very basic system prompts. So that's all you would change, right? You would say, well, in my case, I don't need to be able to talk to a behavior expert, but it would be very useful to be able to talk to a tech integration expert or whatever it might be. So by changing that, you would change the whole app just by changing the prompt. And you would not have to touch any of the code. Again, if you're interested, let me know, and we can take a bit more time to learn how to create the whole thing, bring the code, but that's a bit more complex than we have time for today. And then once you do that, there's really no limit to the apps you can create. For instance, going back to the example that I created with Poe. So remember with Poe, I did that app, or we started creating that app that writes an article aligned with students' interests and then gives them comprehension questions, right? That's a good app. If I'm writing the whole code and creating my own app, I can make it much more complex, so I can be much more granular, I have much more control. So in this example, that app does sort of the same thing. So the student enters their interest, and they say, well, I love cooking. They choose their level of English proficiency. They say what they want to focus on. So here, vocabulary. As you can see, it surfs the web and writes the article. So you have the article here. I can ask the AI to read the article back to me. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's reading the article. And then I have the key vocabulary that has been extracted, the key grammar rules that the student should focus on, some expressions, etc. So, and again, once you duplicate that app, or once you create your own, if you want to try and vibe code using, I would recommend using Claude, and then copying and pasting the code onto Hugging Face. All you need to do again is change here the prompt itself, right? So you could decide that it's going to do something else than generate articles for ESL learners. The basic architecture of the app will remain the same. Its functionality will be different. For instance, actually, if you were to look at the code for the PBL one and for the reverse unit planner one, the app is very, very similar. Actually, there's a few tweaks here and there. The design is a bit different, but the 90% is the same. So once you create one, it's very easy to slightly tweak it to do completely different things and look different for different purposes. So again, you'll have access to some of the other apps that I've created. And the what next would be, once you're familiar with it and familiar with the different levels, right, from just writing the prompts to using Poe to et cetera, I would encourage you, if you are working directly with students, to invite them to create their own AI solutions, right? What can be better than for a student to, whether it's for their learning or other aspects of their lives, once they encounter a problem, be able to thoughtfully design a technological solution that will help them navigate that either learning challenge or life situation. There is actually one that you have access to Let me find the link here for you. In the ones that I shared with you, so I don't have the link here, but there is one that I created, and what it does is it helps students design effective ways to study. So they would input what they have to do. For instance, preparing for a math test on a particular topic, and the app tells them, well, here are efficient, proven study strategies. And then once the students select one of the strategies, the app can create materials to use that strategy. So here's how you do active recall. Here's how you do interleaving. Here's how you use the Feynman technique, right? So the student not only learns, studies what they have to focus on, but they also sort of learn how to learn, right? So that's one example of an app that you could try and replicate, actually, since I don't have the link here, either using Poe, or if you want to try your chance with Hugging Face. So since we have a few minutes left, I want to go back to Rachel's questions. And if you have other questions, feel free to either pop them in the chat or just turn on your mic and ask away. I'm going to go ahead with Rachel's question. So Rachel, you asked, for the new teacher app, would we need to use the paid version to provide all of the features you want to include? No. So the way it works is whether you pay or not does not dictate what your app can do. The only thing that it dictates, or the main thing that it dictates, is how many times you can go back and forth with the AI assistant. So if your prompt was so clear, so well designed, that in one go, Lovable can create exactly what you need, then obviously that doesn't hit your rate limit, and there's no limit to what you can get it to do, right? What sometimes happens is, that happened to me, is you ask for something, and then if you hadn't, although I thought I had been very thorough and thoughtful, but as I designed the app, I thought, oh, it would be cool if I added that thing. So then it's a new message, and because you only have a handful of messages per day that are free, then you hit your limit. So be very careful. On the free tier, you only have, it's really a handful. It's like 5 to 10 messages per day. It's very powerful. So if your prompt is well designed and sort of comprehensive, in 5 to 10 messages, you should be able to design what you need. But if it doesn't, then you have to wait until the next day, or you might have to pay for it. Let me just real quick, because I wanted to show you that that app that students can use to learn. So let me go here, because I think it's a good example. So you can see it's called Learn to Learn. And so what you would do is you can upload so if the teachers, if they share their slides with you, share the slides or any teaching material that they shared with you. You can add more context. So you could say things like, I want to learn about so I need to learn about social identity theory. That's a psychology class. So let's say I'm preparing for an in-class essay. And so what it's going to do is give me techniques that I can use, right? So you can say, okay, so it's like use dual coding, use active recall, use the Feynman technique, right? And not only does it give me those techniques, but I can then say, okay, that sounds interesting. Let me create the necessary material. So let's say I want to do that thing, right? So then here I would say, here's what I need. And then I only have 20 minutes. I want to solve real life problems, and I want them to be related to soccer because that's my passion. What that will do is it is going to create materials for me to study what I need to study, which is social learning theory, but in the context that I'm interested in, which is soccer, with real life problems, and using an effective technique, which is not just like reading my notes over and over again, but actually solving real life problems, right? So you see, you give me a scenario, gives me a real life task, and gives me hints. And then because it's a learning tool, I can then look at the solutions and also give me a summary. And importantly, it tells me at the end why this study technique is effective and how I can use it in the future to study something else, right? Point being, that whole app costs nothing, right? It was created for free. This one runs on GPT-4o Mini, so you would pay per use, but it's very cheap. It's a couple cents for millions of tokens, so it's very cheap. And you could actually design one that is open source, which is free to access and free to use, right? You would not pay for it, the kids wouldn't pay for it. That particular one, again, I co-wrote the code with Claude. You need to be very thoughtful ahead of time as to what you need, right? So that algorithm that I talked about at the beginning is to be very clear in your mind, and you need to know a little bit about questions to ask and tweaks to make. So if you're interested in learning how to create those apps sort of from scratch, let me know, and maybe in the future we'll try to create a boot camp and a couple hours, maybe over a weekend or in the evening, so it works for more people, and we'll learn how to do that together. So unless you have more questions, I want to thank you again for joining today. I want to wish you a happy AI Literacy Day, and I hope it was useful. Please let me know. I will share the slides with you, where you will find all the links of the different apps that I talked about. Thank you very much.